A Muslim chanting Allahu Akbar has stabbed Bishop Mar Mari Emmanuel in Sydney Monday evening, April 15th, 2024. Another priest, Father Isaac, was also injured and taken to hospital with the bishop. A police report states that a number of people were stabbed, but none of the injuries were life-threatening, thank God. Now, this all happened at the Christ the Good Shepherd Church in the suburb of Wakeley, Australia. Now, according to AFP news agency, the neighborhood is a hub for Sydney's small Christian Assyrian community, many of whom have fled persecution and war in Iraq and Syria. Now, this happened during a live stream of their service where you can see a man approaching the bishop and then continuing to stab him. Now, when they held the attacker down, he can be seen smiling after he just attempted to take another human's life. Now, according to news.com.au, the attacker was a 15-year-old boy. Now, here is the footage of the attacker smiling after the attack. Now, how do we know he was a Muslim? Here is a conversation that the one priest is having with him where he mentions that the reason he did this was because the bishop spoke out against his prophet Muhammad. Check this out. Here's another by an eyewitness who held him down, the one with the blood on the pants, mentioning, saying, and repeating Allahu Akbar. Check this out.
Wow. He kept saying Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. He was saying that? Yeah. Wow. Okay. Yeah, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar.
Now, is this an extremist Muslim, or is this justified in the Quran? That is the question that we need to ask. Now, let's first clarify which verses are relevant and which ones are not anymore. Sam Shamoun writes a great article on this. Now, according to the doctrine of abrogation in Islam, newer texts in the Quran take priority over older ones if they conflict. This means that Muslims need to understand which verses came first and which came later. Now, the doctrine is super important. In a mosque in Kufa, Ali bin Abu Talib got mad at a judge named Abdur Rahman because he mixed up what was allowed and what wasn't. Ali asked him if he could tell which verses were abrogative, but the judge couldn't. So Ali grabbed his ear, twisted it, and told him to stop judging. This shows how crucial it is to know about abrogation. Ali even said that someone who doesn't get it will mess things up for others. Now, according to Islamic belief, it's the newer verses in the Quran that we should follow today. One of the verses that teaches this is Surah 2, verse 106. Now, the Quran tells Muslims to fight to establish Allah's rule on earth, no matter what it takes. Most Islamic scholars believe that one specific verse, Surah 9 verse 5, cancels out 124 other verses that talk about peace and forgiveness. This verse basically says, when the forbidden months are over, go out and fight the non-believers wherever you find them. Ambush them, slay, siege to them. Do whatever it takes in war, but if they turn around, pray and give to charity. Then be kind to them, because Allah is forgiving and merciful. I mean, the verse actually word for word is here on the screen. You could read it, right? Now, in this verse, which some call the verse of the sword, it says that there's only one way for non-Muslims to avoid being killed. They have to become Muslims by repenting, praying regularly, and giving to charity. Now, for the people of the book, which is Jews and Christians, which would actually include Mar Mari Emmanuel, there's another verse in the same chapter that says they can avoid being killed by paying a tax called jizya and accepting second-class status. Now, this means they have to pay money for protection and live as second-class citizens, even if they're in their own homeland. Now, we've seen this happen in places like Egypt, in Syria, in Lebanon, in Iraq, Sudan, and other Middle Eastern countries that were taken over by Muslims in the first 100 years of Islam. The Christians who lived there now had to go through a lot to keep their faith alive. Now, these verses begin in Surah 9 verse 5 and in Surah 9 verse 29. But what do the hadith say about all of this? Now, the hadith are basically the things that Muhammad, the Prophet of Islam, said and did. Now, they're like a second source of Islamic teachings after the Quran. The hadith agree with the Quran when it comes to violence and living together with others. They also talk about abrogation, just like the Quran does, and have similar historical details. At first, Muhammad's teachings were more about peace, but later on, things changed. For example, Ibn Hibban wrote in his Sahih that Muhammad said he was sent to spread his message through violence. In another account by Imam Ahmed, Muhammad said he was sent with a sword before Judgment Day, and those who didn't follow him would face humiliation. Here's the source: Sahih, volume 14, page 529, as well as Musnad, volume 2, page 50. Now, Omar ibn al-Khattab even mentioned hearing Muhammad say that he wanted to kick out Jews and Christians from the area, leaving only Muslims. You can see this in Sunan Abu Dawud, volume 2, number 28. Now, there's even a story from Ibn Ishaq and al-Waqidi where Muhammad apparently said to kill any Jew you could find right after a particular murder. This is in al-Bidayah wa in al-Nihaya, Ibn Kathir, volume 4. Now, these hadith show a different side of Muhammad's teachings compared to that what we might expect. Now, let's take a look at what Muhammad did. Now, Aisha, his child bride, which he married when he was 6, and he had sex with her when she was 9, once said that Muhammad's character reflected the teachings of the Quran itself. Now, this is narrated Muslim. So, according to her, his life shows us what the Quran really means. Now, when we read about Muhammad's actions, we see a lot of cases where people were assassinated. Most of these happened because someone spoke out against Muhammad. Now, remember, Bishop Mar Mari Emmanuel also spoke out against Muhammad. For example, Ibn Ishaq reported that Muhammad once said to kill any Jew that falls into your power. Now, this led to an incident where Muyaisa, who wasn't even a Muslim at the time, killed a Jewish merchant named Ibn Sunayna. His brother, Huwayisa, was upset and asked why Muyaisa killed him, especially since they did business together. Muhayisa replied that if someone had ordered him to kill Huwayisa, he would have done it without hesitation. Now, this is in Al-Badiya wa Al-Nihaya, Ibn Kathir, volume 4, in the chapter on killing Ka'ab bin Ashraf. Now, so the big question is, how do Muslims reconcile all of this with the idea that Islam is a peaceful religion that promotes coexistence with other religions? How do they reconcile it? See, I'd love to believe that Islam is peaceful like so many people say it is, but until someone can give me a credible and peaceful explanation for all the writings and events I've talked about, I'm not so sure. You see, there's one more thing that's really bothering me. Imam Abu Hamid Ghazali, now this is as Sam Shaman points out, once said that speaking can be a tool to achieve certain goals. He explained that if a good outcome can be achieved by both telling the truth and lying, it's wrong to lie because it's unnecessary. However, check this out. If telling the truth won't work but lying will, and the goal is a good one, then it's okay to lie. Now, this is in The Reliance of the Traveler, section 8.2, page 745. And another scholar, Ibn Shihab, also talked about lying in specific situations. He mentioned that there are only 3 cases where lying is acceptable: during battle, to make peace between people, and when a husband or wife is trying to reconcile with each other. Could you imagine that? This is in Sahih Muslim, book 32, number 6303. Could you imagine you and your wife are fighting, and Allah's like, hey, it's okay to lie for you to reconcile with each other. It's okay to lie. Did you cheat on me? No. Okay, cool. Well, the goal was to reconcile, so it's okay to lie to my wife about cheating with her, because that is permissible by Allah in the Quran, right? Or to make peace between people. You know what? To make peace, I'm going to lie and say you can totally practice your religion in my country, because the goal is to make peace, so it's okay to lie about anything. This is Allah of the Quran permitting lying under these three cases. Now, this is a Islamic scholar who shares this, right? You can go read for yourself. Now, here's what's troubling me. Why should we believe Muslims when they say Islam is all about peace? Because they can lie if their end goal is the Islamization of the country, right? They're allowed to lie and say it's about peace. You know, that's the thing. In Surah 8, verse 39 and 40, we can see it's making Islam the main religion. You can go and lie. So these questions are really important, and I'm hoping we'll get some answers soon before it's too late. So go read the amazing articles by Sam Shamoun if you want to learn more about defending Christianity against Islam. Now, also, if you want to support my channel, what I do, I'm a Christian apologist, so I give a defense for Christianity. And my master's is focused in speaking out against Islam, apologetics in Islam, especially about the Quran not being perfectly preserved. According to the latest Islamic scholars conclude that. It's not me, it's the scholars that conclude that. But if you want to support this ministry and help me do this more and more and more often, you can go onto my website. You can take a course on Udemy that I have. The link's in the description. You can buy Christian merch like this hat or my Jesus King hats. You'll see other apologists like Tim Barnett wearing them. Or you can actually donate on my channel. You can a coffee a month. Coffee a month goes a long way. So have a good one. Peace out.